Good afternoon and welcome. We are at the end of another month. Hard to believe, but we are. You are tuned in to the October announcements. Want to welcome you all for joining us. If you're joining us on the live feed, welcome. And if you're catching up with us on YouTube, welcome. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to do a few quick shout outs and then we're going to get right into it. We've got a lot of new, exciting products to talk about. Before I forget, don't you forget, you only have a few hours left, depending on where you're at, to do your pre-orders for everything that we talked about in September, including the SD70 ACUs. You don't want to be left in the lurch on those. So let's see who's joining us today. I've got Donnie, Eric, Jay Cure, Chessie, Chad, Matthew, Ron, Kyle, Gary, Delta 9, Harold, and Anessa. Want to thank you for joining us. Like I said, we have got some great stuff to talk about. We're coming out with some new Dash 9s as well as some GP38-2s and a bunch of different freight cars and accessories for your layout, module, or your club layout, wherever your models reside. So one more time for some shout outs. I've got Timothy, Thomas, Jamie, Chad, Glenn, Les, John, KCG Railfan, Donnie, Toledo, Wayne. I want to thank you all for joining us. Let's go ahead and get started with what is going to be a big month. We're going to start our journey into October and look into the Dash 9s. Now, this is going to be our second release on these Dash 9s. Now, keep in mind, we're just going to go over these briefly. Keep, stay tuned, because in the coming weeks, we will be going through these in much more depth on Train Tuesday. But here we are. Now, we offered these before as standard CNW. These are prime for grime CNWs. These are as they appeared in the early 2000s under UP. Now, here's one that's been causing a lot of talk on the internet and on the forums and on Facebook. Really neat locomotive. We have not offered this before. This is the first time in plastic for the teardrop windshield on these Dash 9s. These BC rail units, we got a lot of requests for these. Of course, last time we offered the standard cab for the BC rail and the older red, white, and blue paint scheme. This paint scheme here is the first time we've offered them. And again, we've updated the tooling to include the teardrop windshield that you can see once you guys figured out what the prototype image was that I posted last night. Now, these are 2000s era. A lot of them still running around on CN. Here's another one. Now, I told you guys on the last Train Tuesday, I had a hint. You BNSF guys are going to be happy. We had a lot of requests on these Burlington Northern Santa Fe as delivered without their stripes. Now, this is late 90s. I remember this era very well. And this was one that, again, was very popular with you guys. So we're glad to offer two in this, believe it or not, as delivered. They were so power starved, they didn't even apply the rest of the markings. And then, of course, we're offering one in the standard Heritage 2 paint scheme as it appeared in about 2018. Now, one thing I do want to point out quickly is, and we'll talk about it more on Train Tuesday coming up, but if you look carefully, this is, again, 2018, you'll notice that the door on the nose is from a super fleet. Kind of a neat little detail we wanted to add on this run. So a lot of these former BNSF locomotives, when their leases expired, they went on to other roads. Kansas City Southern is one of them. This is part of our Prime for Grime, much like the CNW /UP units that we're offering. We have two in Kansas City Southern and Prime for Grime. We'll talk a little bit more about those in an upcoming Train Tuesday. These are based on relatively newer era. This is 2021 on up. We've also got another Prime for Grime and the GECX. So if you need some lease power, there's an opportunity for you. Now, this one right here, I want to apologize. There was a mix-up in the art department. We will be updating these. These were offered in the previous run. We're going to be doing something different this time. So stay tuned. We'll be updating the Norfolk Southern locomotives. So don't worry. We've got that under control. We should have those updated here pretty soon. Now, for you guys that are Red Sill era Union Pacific fans, this is another one highly requested by you guys. The Red Sill Dash 9s, they're perfect for mid to late 90s modelers and are going to go well with next month's announcement. Yes, that's a hint. Now, for you late UP modelers, we do have something coming up here in a little bit. It's not only the Prime for Grime CNW, but the one that we just talked about, the patched GECX unit. So we're giving the UP guys with the Red Sill, somewhat modern era, a little bit of love. 1990s into the early 2000s. So we'll talk more about the features on these guys coming up. I'm going to just briefly look for any quick questions out there. We won't go too long on it because we got a lot of ground to cover before the weekend. So let's go ahead and see if there are any questions. And yeah, Eric, yeah, okay, Eric, you saw I got that. Yeah, sorry about that, Eric. We're working on it. Looks like the Kansas City Southern Dash 9s is a hit. We got a lot of guys liking that. Go back further a little bit. Yeah, these were popular. We had a lot of folks happy to see those. All right. Here we go. All right, so let's go. One more comment here. What happened so far? We just talked Dash 9s, but do not worry. In the next Train Tuesday, we'll be talking about those Dash 9s, and we're going to be going into detail. There's been some updates in the tooling, specifically with the teardrop window, some other interesting things that we've done too. So let's go back a little bit and let's talk about an older locomotive, not too much older, but let's talk about some GP38-2s. We're offering these again in the Genesis line. And again, we didn't hold back on these either. So Norfolk Southern fans, you're up next, but check this out. This is what development's been working on. Not only were we going to just re-release the GP38-2s, it's been about a year or so since we announced them last, but this time they are going to have new lighting functions, and those new lighting functions are the number boards and, where possible on the prototype, working classification lights. Now, this is something that you guys have all been asking for, and it's more and more common with you guys that are into operations to have these as separate functions. So remember, in the past, the GP38-2s didn't have these two functions. These will now have that. Now, one of the things I wanted to let you know too is all of our Dash 2 models within the Athearn Genesis line will eventually include these features. Maybe not right away, but we are working on updating those since there is such a demand for these lighting features. So we've got 3 road numbers in Norfolk Southern, all former Conrail units, early 2000s. So even if you've got a massive Norfolk Southern layout, you can probably use 1 or 2 of these for some smaller branch line service or industrial service. Here's another one that was requested. This is the EMD lease. We're doing them in 3 different variations, as you can see here. We'll talk about those variations in an upcoming Train Tuesday. But another highly requested road name. Remember, I told you it was going to be a good month if you're into BNSF. And if you like early BNSF, we're doing 3 different road numbers in the Heritage one. And we'll talk about those in a future Train Tuesday. I remember shooting these quite often back in the late 90s into the early 2000s while going through Illinois. We'll talk about those variations. It's pretty interesting. Union Pacific again. Now, this is where some more updates have been done. We have not been able to do these specific Union Pacific locomotives in the past. There's been some updates. Those updates are, well, many newly tooled details that we haven't had in the past. You can see the wire piping on the roof. It's mainly for the relocated air horn. There are going to be new walkways, pilots, coupler cut levers have been created for all 3 versions. And the 2047 that you see there, it's notable in that it has a switcher style ladder steps, which is kind of different. So we did a lot of work on those guys. They're not just a simple GP38-2 that we painted in an earlier paint scheme, but we wanted to offer those details, so that meant we had to tool up some new details for these models. And these are based on 1980s era. I know a lot of you guys are probably going to be pretty excited about these. Now check this out, Chehalis Western. This is one that, yes, we got requests for. We're talking 1981, right after they ordered these. So brand new, fresh from the factory. And then we didn't forget about the Midwest, Milwaukee Road. Here's another one. There's been some stuff done to the GP38-2, some updates. Now, these are being offered with a newly tooled correct solid end rails with no drop steps. 350 and 354 are nearly as delivered. They were still shiny when Milwaukee Road added the railroad standard Stratolite beacons that you see there. So these models represent how they appeared for much of their life before the FRA mandated updates. 363 has the notch pilots and a coupler cut levers, indicating it's been modified to meet the mid-1970s FRA requirements. And it's also received a billboard lettering on its side and nose, which it would wear until its bandit patching would come hastily applied by the Sioux line after the acquisition. So you've got some really good choices here. Basically as delivered and then later in life, just before the Sioux line. So again, newly tooled and not just details, but we are offering these with the lit number boards and the marker lights where applicable. Depending on the prototype, will depend on what lighting functions we include, but they all have lit number boards, and we'll talk about those details. Yeah, the Milwaukee roads, they are very popular. Yes, they do, and we're going to talk about those. Looks like those are a popular road. Again, this was all based on customer feedback. So we want to thank you guys that put in, feedback for us to read, and this makes our job easier. We want to make sure that we're offering the correct locomotives and rolling stock that you guys want. All right, speaking of rolling stock, let's see what we've got next. coming up next is the AutoMax. So the AutoMax, it's been a while since we've offered this. These are going to be mainly in the mid 2000s to the uh, late 90s, depending on the era. We're offering Kansas City Southern in 3 different road numbers. We're offering Burlington Northern Santa Fe. This is more late 1990s. This is the old Circle Cross paint scheme. We're offering that in 3 different road numbers. And then the more modern BNSF Railway, the swoosh paint scheme, or the wedge, we're offering that in 3 different road numbers. All of these are available in 3 different road numbers. We're offering Union Pacific in a late 2000s paint scheme. You've got the Arkansas and Oklahoma. And of course, Faro Sur. That was one that we get requests for. We'll talk more about the background on these. We're going to offer these in HO under the Athearn line, and we'll talk about the N-scale ones here in a moment. Yeah, it's been a little bit. So we're happy to do these. We're really excited about re-releasing these. We're offering some roads, doing some work on some stuff that we have not shown in a while. So speaking of things that we haven't done in a while, we have another fun product to show you. And that is the 200-ton crane and boom car. Now, it's been a little bit since we've offered this. This is under the Athearn line now, formerly the Ready to Roll. We take a little bit of liberties on these, but they have been so popular in the past that we wanted to offer them again, this time under some new road numbers, road names. We're offering CB&Q, Duluth, Mississippi and Iron Range, the Rio Grande, Illinois Central, Milwaukee Road, Chicago and Northwestern, Norfolk and Western, and Missouri, Kansas, and Texas. So you've got a great lineup to choose from. Now, these are great in any situation. Maybe if you just want to even park them in your yard to be ready for that call, should it ever come. Little bit of nostalgia. This is a model that's been around since, believe it or not, the 1950s. Well into the blue box era, then into the ready to roll era. Now it's coming into the Athearn era. And we'll talk about these in detail coming up in a future Train Tuesday. All right. What else do we have on our plate today? We've got some more freight cars. Coming up next, 50-foot superior plug door box cars. These are so handy, and they pretty much, go from the 80s up into the 2000s. So we're offering roads to help you guys out. Now, these are going to be available in 3 different road numbers per road. We've got the BNSF and the wedge paint scheme, late 2000s. Conrail guys, you've been asking for a 1980s Conrail boxcar for quite a while. We're happy to introduce this one here for you. 3 different road numbers. Chicago Northwestern and Norfolk and Western, both 1980s cars. And here's another one that's been extremely popular in the product suggestion inbox, the BC Rail, or British Columbia Railway cars. 3 different road numbers, mid-1980s paint scheme, and then finally, Western Pacific, the FGE Florida or Fruit Growers Express. 3 different road numbers, 1971 era. Those, I'm sure we're going to have something for everybody. N scale guys, don't worry. There's something coming up in N scale. Don't worry. We're going to try to do something in N scale every month. So here's something that a couple of things that you guys have been asking for. These are the Maxi-III well cars. One of the things that I wanted to point out is development has improved the bolster for a couple of reasons, mainly for durability, but it's also some added weight as well. This is uh, a durability thing, and I know a lot of you guys that are in modular clubs, sometimes it's easier just to put these well cars in one of those foam line boxes. And let's be honest, sometimes we're not as careful as we should be. Sometimes those bolsters don't hold up to rigorous amounts of going from train show to train show. So that has been updated. It's going to be a metal bolster now, not the plastic like it's been in the past. That's going to help in the durability standards. It's also going to help with the weight. Now we're offering these in the following roads. They're going to have 3 different road numbers per road. So we're happy to have the American President lines, Northwest Container, Santa Fe, Southern Pacific, and of course Trailer Train. These are going to range from early 90s into the later 90s. And that's just one of the things that development has added to these cars, that bolster. Now, if anybody's asking, that upgrade for the metal bolster, that is an upgrade that will be backwards compatible with previous versions. So look for those parts being available when these cars are delivered. So if you've currently got these and you're like, wow, I could really use those metal bolsters, well, we're thinking of you. Um, that is something that we're going to work on as a separate part that can be ordered. So you can upgrade uh, your Maxi-III well cars you got in previous runs. Again, these are in the Athearn line, so they're going to have the details that you've come to expect within the Athearn line. Stay tuned. We're always working on refinements as we go. We may have even more surprises for you in the coming weeks. All right, so we've talked a little bit about some rail cars. We've talked about some locomotives. Let's get into some yard tractors. We've got some yard tractors that we want to show you this month. Now, if you've got an intermodal service somewhere on your layout, you're going to want at least one of these. These little yard tractors, basically, they act as their own little switcher, taking these uh, containers on a chassis and moving them about whatever transfer yard. Here we've got a Santa Fe version. We have a Conrail version. Here's JB Hunt, Norfolk Southern, the typical suspects. Southern Pacific and UPS. Now, the UPS truck, I will tell you now, is a little bit slightly higher retail just because of the licensing. But the UPS trucks are in high demand. We had a lot of requests for this one. And as small as these little yard trucks are, there's a lot of detail that goes into these. So again, if you've got any use for some type of intermodal transfer power on your layout or your module, you're going to want to pick up 1 or 2 of these. Now, speaking of containers, let's see what we've got this month on tap for containers. We've got the 48-foot containers again. We're offering them in JB Hunt, Santa Fe, Conrail, that Conrail Mercury one. I know you Conrail guys have been asking for that. Southern Pacific and NYK. Now, these are going to obviously they're going to have different road numbers for each one. We'll talk more about these in detail in the coming weeks. Now, these are going to be 6-packs this time. Now, these classic road names were seen dominating contests, so they're being offered in bulk. We're happy to be able to offer these containers at the same per container price as previous offerings, even though everything is getting more expensive. We realize that. We want to make things easier for you guys. Remember, Athearn's made up of 90% model railroaders, so some of the same things that you have to think about, we think about as well. And let's see, what else do we have in our bag of tricks? I know it's a full month, and we've only got a short amount of time, so I don't want to miss anything. Oh, that's right. We've got containers and chassis. So let me bring this up so you guys can see it. So those popular road names that we just talked about, we're offering those with a chassis. JB Hunt, Santa Fe, that cool Conrail Mercury, NYK, and Southern Pacific. They're all going to come with their chassis. So you've got everything you need, you know, the tractors, the containers, the well cars, the Dash 9s. You guys modeling the 90s on up, you've got some great stuff to choose from this month. And last but not least, I know I said we have some N scale. Yes, we have some N scale. Let me share my screen quickly for you guys. It's been a long time for N scale, guys, but we are offering the AutoMax carrier once again. Similar road names, well, actually same road names as our HO scale brothers. Kansas City Southern, early Burlington Northern Santa Fe, current BNSF Railway, Union Pacific, Arkansas and Oklahoma, and Faro Sur. Again, these are all N scale. We'll talk about the features of these cars coming up, but they're available in 3 different road numbers each. Now, everything that we've talked about today, you have until Friday, October 28th to pre-order. Now, today's one of those fun days because you have the opportunity to go to your hobby shop as soon as this live stream is done and pre-order everything that we've talked about in September. That's the SD70 ACUs. There's so much stuff that we talked about in September. If you need a quick rundown, go back to our YouTube channel, check it out. Like and subscribe while you're there, but check out the Train Tuesdays for September, see what we've got, and run down to your dealer, call your dealer, send an email, whatever you do for your dealer. Get those pre-orders in. Those SD70 ACUs, they're doing really well, which means next year when they come into our distribution center, they're probably going to be spoken for. So instead of playing the Easter run game, just go ahead and pre-order and not have to worry about it. For the October announcements, you have until, like I said, Friday the 28th. So yes, order before Halloween. And we came out with those pumpkins just in time for you Halloween fans. I've got time to take 1 or 2 questions, and then I'm going to let you guys go back. We are at the gateway to the weekend. A lot of you guys will be getting off work soon if you're not already. I want you guys to get out there and get some railroading done. Let's take a few questions and see what's out there. Patrick, yes, that is it for N scale this month, but don't worry. We'll have more offerings as we move throughout each month. Our announcements are kind of like a radio station. We may not have your favorite this month, but we will definitely have a favorite for you at some point. We try to make as many selections as possible that will please as many of you guys. There's a wide variety of modelers out there. We try to hit as many as we can with what they're looking for. So if we didn't get something that you were looking for this month, don't worry. We will get that to you eventually. All right. Will the Dash 9s have flashing ditch lights? Well, the Norfolk Southern ones definitely will. That's per the prototype. Genesis locomotives in both lighting features and details will have um, features based on the actual locomotive. Now remember, they are not only road name specific, but they are road number specific. So in this case, that will be set up with the flashing ditch lights when the horn function is used. Let's see what else we have. And I'm basically looking for questions regarding October announcements or September items. Yeah, there's somebody that's excited about the AutoMax and N scale. I knew these would be popular. If you're talking about containers, I don't know everything off the top of my head. If you're talking trailers, stick around. Nicholas says we need more N scale. Well, we are basically using our product suggestion email as a guide to see how much N scale we should do. And that includes not just re releases and new items, but actual new projects. Don't forget, we came out with a brand new car this past year. That's the 13K tank car in N scale. Also, the first manufacturer to come out with shelf couplers in N scale. So we're working on N scale stuff. If you don't see what you're looking for this month, don't worry, stay tuned. Randall with a nice comment about his cabooses. Thank you. Thank you for letting us know. All right. I'm going to go down here. I've kind of gone back to see if there's anything that I missed. Randall says, yes, trailers, Jim. Well, I think you're going to be happy before the year is over. How many runs will there be of the GP38-2s? Well, we still have a lot to choose from. We still have a lot that we have to do yet. In fact, HO Scale Railfan here has a parting shot saying, I'm in shell shock that you didn't jump on the opportunity to do the Reading and Northern's GP38-2s, considering their 40th anniversary is near. There's a couple of things that we all need to keep in mind. Remember those Union Pacific GP38-2s that we're introducing this month? We've never been able to do those before because we didn't have access to the details and some of the tooling. This time we do have the manpower and development to actually come up with those details. We were able to get that research done, and so we were able to offer that. So if you don't see your favorite road, it may not just be a simple fact that we forgot about it. Maybe we do know about it, but there are certain details on a specific locomotive that you're requesting that we don't have the tooling for yet or don't have the detail parts for yet. So if you haven't seen your favorite 38-2, don't worry. It's a matter of time before you will. And we'll probably keep running those GP38-2s as long as there's new paint schemes to choose from and as long as there's new folks coming into the hobby that may have missed earlier releases. So it's kind of the F-150 of the railroad world. It's all over the place. There's a lot of us here at Athearn that can appreciate that for the same reasons. All right. I am going to let you guys go. Like I said, we are at the gateway to the weekend. It is time to pack it up, get to your dealer. Don't forget, you've only got a few hours left to place those pre orders, those SD70 ACUs. I don't want you to be disappointed when next year comes around. Go ahead and pre order those now. And anything that we've talked about on this new announcement video, you've got until Friday, October 28th, just before Halloween, to place those pre orders. Until I see you on an upcoming Train Tuesday, I want everybody out there to be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some good modeling, and above all, High greens, everyone.